Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. So today I just wanted to share a little story about one of my first weeks on the job at my current company. As I've talked about in a bunch of my speeches over the last couple of weeks here during the course, I do work for an insurance company, Chubb Insurance. We are one of the largest insurance providers in the country, as well as we are an international corporation. So, before I get into my story here, I just want to give you a little bit of background on myself and my affiliation at the time with the company. So, initially, when I had gone to college, gone to Rider, I got my undergraduate degree in marketing and a minor in sales management. So, talking to people has always been my passion. And one of my talents is I can talk to a brick wall probably for 3 hours about anything you throw at me. So I always knew that working with people was going to be something that I wanted to do. I was never sure about in what capacity or what field that would exactly be in or where my career would even lead to post grad. So, one of my family friends actually works at Chubb in a totally different department, and she's been there for just about 10 years now. Went back to work after she had her kids. So, she was how I knew about the company in the first place. And I saw a posting on LinkedIn about a year ago around this time. It was end of February, beginning of March. And I applied for the position, and my family friend had put in a good word just with the hiring manager. Got an interview, went for the interview. It was fine, good. It was with my current boss, who I report to, and her higher up, who I also interact with on a daily basis. So I went in, thought it went great. I get a call about 3 weeks later saying, sorry, not going to work for the position. It was a part time position that I applied to, so I thought I could maybe fit it in with school. I was in my last semester of my senior year, and at that point, I knew I was going to graduate on time. My classes were not the easiest, but I wasn't necessarily so concerned with the overall grade I was going to get. I knew I'd average out at an A or a B in my classes, so I was fine with it. Figured would make it work, but my career is the most important thing because this is what we're going to be doing officially come May after graduation. So they said, timeline, not going to work out for us. You're still in school. Thank you for your consideration of our company. So I said, okay, well, that's not for me. Wound up going to a couple of other interviews. One company in particular I thought I would really like. For whatever reason, I don't know why, because I had interned at a staffing company and this company was a staffing company. The internship was so so, but I was familiar, so I thought I could do the job, and it was the first job, so I'd pretty much take anything at that point. Funny thing, about a month before graduation, right around the end of April, I'm sitting in the dean's office where I had worked all through college, and I get an email from the hiring manager who messaged me, a couple months, well, about a month and a half prior, saying, sorry, not going to work out. And her name is Kim. And Kim sends me this email stating, hi, we're still hiring for these positions. Are you still interested? We know you're graduating. And I email her back. Not even 5 minutes later, I get an email saying, we want you to come in. If you want the job, here's the paperwork. All you have to do is hit the accept button and put your electronic signature in, and then done. So I'm sitting there and I sat on it for a couple of days. I hadn't heard back from this other company that at the time was the staffing agency I thought that I wanted to work for, thought I was going to go work for because my interview was great. Wound up never hearing back from them also. So that says something of how fate works out. But I wound up accepting this job about 3 weeks before graduation. I already had a trip planned the week after, so I graduated. I think it was on the 18th. The following week, went away on vacation, and 2 days after I got back from vacation, started working. I think it was June 2nd or June 3rd that I started working at Chubb. So from there, what happens when you get into the company? You get about a month of intensive training. The department that I'm in is the customer care and billing department. So all day long, I am on the phone talking numbers, coverages, you name it. I talk to everybody from our actual clients, the brokers who service them, the mortgage companies or the banks that have that are lien holders or bill payers on our clients' policies. So you name it, I talk to them. And with all of these parties that we're talking to, we need a lot of training on a lot of different systems to be able to actually assist them with their requests. So it was me and one other woman, small training class, just the two of us, went through the whole thing. And the last week of training, you get put on the floor for half the day. And training is classroom style. So you're sitting with an instructor. We had two of them in our class, and they would teach you all the systems, give you demos, examples, run through like mock calls and what have you. And after this mock call phase comes the actual calls that you listen in on. Now, this fast forward about 2 weeks, I'd been on the floor only a week by myself at this point. And me coming into this industry, it was such a quick boom, boom. We want you. Are you available? Here's the job. Here's the training. There you go. So I have no idea about insurance. I didn't even know. I didn't even know any parameters of coverage. I didn't know the terminology, nothing. So I'm sitting there and I get this call come in and normal spiel, how you doing? What can I help you with? And we go through the general verification process. So when we verify your name, your address, and then if you know, say the broker who services your policy or your effective date, something like that, depending on who's calling. So the guy I'm talking to, he's frustrated, and I hadn't at that point experienced a person who was that upset. I had to turn the volume down on my headset because my eardrums were shattering from him screaming. And it wasn't anything I did. It was just his interaction with a couple of other customer representatives, maybe not answering his questions to the fullest or what have you. So I'm trying to de-escalate, let him get it all out, and actually, get to a place where I can make some progress and figuring out what exactly this guy needs right now, what has been done, what can be done, and how we can get this wrapped up for him. So as I'm talking to this guy, and let's just call him Joe, I'm talking to Joe, and when I finally understand what he's looking to do, I realize that the brokerage firm that he's going through is his own firm. So he's the owner of the overall firm. I recognize the name from my training classes. I know we do a lot of business with them, and they're located in North Jersey. So as I'm talking to him, I'm a little nervous because I don't want to mess anything up or say the wrong information, because this is clearly not only an important client, and this is his personal policy, or so I thought at the time, but it's his firm that's servicing it. So there's no room for error here. And I am 1 week out on the floor by myself in week 2. So as I am talking to Joe, I decide that I need to call him back. I need to take some time. I have all my notes. So I'm assessing the situation and get his contact information. He's relatively calm at this point. Fine. So I reach out and we use Skype just to talk between our cubicles to our managers and seniors who are on the floor, message them, tell them what's going on. And in the meanwhile, I'm looking through my training notes. We have like a binder of like printouts of different screenshots of our systems, of how to do things in different workflows. So I'm going through that as I'm taking other calls, because there's no stop with the calls, trying to get all this to work. And at the time, we were so understaffed. It's the summertime, people are out on vacation, and just in general, there was not enough people for the volume of calls that we were getting. So my managers, unfortunately, didn't always answer you immediately. And a lot of the times when you have somebody on hold on your back line and you're trying to get an answer, you can't leave them there for 10 minutes while you try and wait for somebody else to be available to help you. And unfortunately, at the time, it was just not the right week. It was, in July, and these people were not, Joe was not happy. And I had already done enough, or what I could do at the moment, to calm him down. So with us being understaffed, which has gotten a lot better, thankfully, I decide, okay, I just need to figure this one out myself. So I'm going through my resources. I think I figured out exactly what was going on, and obviously had to do with money, and a lot of it at that. Usually, our clients are pretty high profile that we have here, so this wasn't, five, $6,000 we're talking about. Let's just ballpark it and say like $80,000 a year in a premium. That's not unusual. Um, which is crazy. And I took me a long time to realize that that wasn't crazy to a lot of these clients that we're servicing. So I called Joe back. I am trying to figure out exactly, what's going on, get a little more information, and I give him my spiel of everything that I've comprised and figured out. Long story short, we got his issue revised. I ask him if there's anything else I can help him with, and he pauses, and I'm thinking that this guy is going to freak out, that he's going to want to say something or file a formal complaint, which at the time I didn't even know how to file a formal complaint. I had no idea what was going to happen or what he was going to say. And all of a sudden, I hear him have this giant sigh of relief, and the name on the policy was the guy who I was talking to, Joe Schmo, right? And his brokerage firm, like I mentioned before, serviced that account. He tells me, "Thank God, you have no idea what a help you have been to me. This is my son's policy." I guess his son was Joe Jr., right? He goes, "Just this very second, as you got all this straightened out, my son just texted me. He landed from Iraq in Newark and is home safe." And his son had been deployed for the past 3 years overseas. He hasn't seen him. So he's been handling his son's bills. Obviously, him being his father, his firm handles his account. He goes, "You have no idea how much you have helped me. And now I can go to my son and tell him, everything's fine. Everything's been taken care of. Your insurance is in place, your funds are in place, etc." He goes, "I cannot tell you how much your diligence and help has meant to me." And I'm sitting there in shock that, okay, great, I helped this guy, but oh my gosh, I didn't even realize the parameters of the situation, that, you don't know who you're talking to and you don't know what their circumstances are. And in this case, this was a guy who was trying to, get his son's policy straightened out, that was in quite a predicament, and his son was overseas. So we have like a phone survey that you can issue after the call. Guy does the survey and he goes, "Tell me who your manager is." And I told him who my manager was. He included that in the survey. And we get calls now, where we get written statements of the surveys. So I got to read his response. Sure. About 2 weeks goes by, and I get an email from this guy who winds up being our New Jersey, New York district manager. And I'm thinking I did something horribly wrong, that I messed something up. I told somebody the wrong information, and I'm in trouble because there's no text in the email, but the subject from him says, "Call me ASAP. We need to talk." I'm sitting there on a call already when this email comes in. I can feel myself getting bright red. And I call this guy, and his name's Brian. And he goes, "I want you to know this guy, Joe, who is a real pain in the ass between you and me." And I'm sitting there thinking, okay. He goes, "He emailed me personally." So he went above my boss's head to email our district manager of New York, New Jersey territories. And he personally congratulated me, personally came out and met with me, and we had coffee and a great conversation, and we're still networking and in conversation. And, it really wound up being a great relationship that came out of this 2 weeks into my job. And I really just think it's a good lesson where you don't know who you're talking to or how important they are. And you never know what circumstances people are going through. So I was able to help someone, just by having a little bit of empathy and trying to understand their situation, de-escalate their situation, and do my due diligence to not give them the shortcut, to take the time to research, try and use my resources, and call them back and give them exactly the information that they needed and the resolution to the problem that they were having. So again, you never know who you're talking to. You never know who you're helping. And follow your protocol, but a little bit of empathy a lot of the times goes a really long way with a lot of people. So that's my takeaway lesson from this experience. In general, great to see all you guys' speeches, get to hear a little bit about your lives, and it's been a good semester. All right, take care, everyone.